Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have got a very interesting story unfolding. Is Bitcoin going to flop or is it going to just explode? Paying attention to the NASDAQ right now, I can see that it's holding out at this 23,050 zone. And we've just had some very interesting news regarding the unemployment data. Came in lower. What does that mean? Well, it means that your labor market, the hell? It means that your labor market is doing very well. More for the reason for the Fed to not cut. Now, we've got quite a few Fed speakers coming out today, and they're going to be all talking, giving their view on where they think that the economy is going to be, where do they think that interest rates are going to be. And one speaker in particular, Mr. Good Old Waller, is going to be talking about whether he thinks. Now, this guy, Waller, he's usually a hawkish speaker. So he's down with the keep interest rates high. We got to get to our target of 2%. But he's changed his tone a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. He's actually come out and said, like, you know what? Maybe we could cut in July. Maybe. But what we're going to do today, ladies and gentlemen, is NASDAQ, come on, do the move, man. Maybe today Bitcoin could sustain these highs and the market just bypasses everything and just says, you know what? It's all right, because we are at very extreme levels of greed right now and the optimism is so high. Yesterday, we had our first day in a while where the NASDAQ came in with volume above average. And this is something that I'm going to be diving into very shortly just to help you guys understand if this market to the upside is going to sustain itself. And then as we head towards the infamous Fed pivot, that is when we'll start to see a couple of things get very interesting in the marketplace. So if you are new, welcome to the live. I'm keeping this live short and sweet because I've got to dash, but let's break it all down for you, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. So in front of you, NASDAQ currently holding out at this level. Just going to get rid of a couple of things here. Here we go. So it's currently holding out at this level here, and you can see that it swept the Asian session high on the smaller time frames and just now seems to be stalling inside of this range right here. Now, what you got to pay attention to is today. We've got the key 30-year bond auction. Yesterday's auction was fantastic. Now we want to wait and see if this bond auction on the 30-year is going to sustain and give us the idea that investors are actually favoring US debt, given that the US debt is at significant highs. Who the hell's buying US debt right now? Even when BlackRock's recommendation of not buying US debt, who's buying it? Like, realistically. Anyways, let's get into it. So, yeah, NASDAQ is holding out at these highs right now. We've just seen it come up into this vector candle region. And what I'm trying to draw your attention to is this. Yesterday, we had volume above average on the NASDAQ, and you can see that it's done very well for the first time in a long time to get volume above average. And that is good news. However, the price action itself never really came through and sustained itself. And that's a little bit of a problem for me, because even though it's come above average, it hasn't really gained ground. And that's a problem. It needs to break out. Now, I don't know if any of you know Mark Mariani. I can't even say his name, but he come out with some logic today talking about that all the breakouts that are happening, they're not sustaining themselves, and it's not showing you true force of a bullish market. Now, let me draw your attention to this. We've hit the extreme, ladies and gentlemen. We've been waiting for this bad boy to happen for some time right now. Smart money has officially hit the extreme, which effectively means that they are selling aggressively as price is going up. Now, the problem is when they sell, it means that retail's getting trapped. So the one thing that you've got to take into consideration is if retail's getting trapped, you know what's coming with that, ladies and gentlemen. A very interesting move to the downside, because smart money in principle would have offloaded its positions and effectively, I mean, look at this madness, and has effectively covered itself in preparation for the next move to the downside. Now, it might sound like I'm being bearish, but I'm not being bearish at all. Remember, when prices are going up, they're selling. When prices are going down, they're buying. So when do you want to be getting yourself involved in the market? When the market's in the buying mode. You don't want to get involved when the market is selling. Okay, that's the issue. Now, remember, look at this. This is Bitcoin right now. And you can see after yesterday's shenanigans, Bitcoin made the nice move to the upside and it's now just consolidated sideways. We have got orders in both directions, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so that means there's offers to the upside, there's positions to the downside. And when you've got Bitcoin trading in this sideways motion, it does give people the impression, okay, is it strength? Yeah, maybe it could pop up. But is it weakness in the sense, why is it not moving higher? Going over into Bitcoin's price action right now, you can see clear as day that you've got this consolidation right here. So let me just put it into perspective. you've got this consolidation, and the problem is it's just such a large candlestick that made the move to the upside, and now it's managed to sweep the Asian session low. It seems to be holding out, but it is trading sort of below the 5 and 13 EMA, as you can see right here. And that's a bit of a problem for me, because if it's trading below the 5 and 13 EMA, naturally it means that price is going to diverge back into moving averages, which is why I'm saying just make sure you're paying yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. All right, take something off the table in preparation to understand whether or not price is going to continue higher. Now, going into the Arkham, you can see we haven't had any developments with regards to the ETF. 2 hours ago, we had Wisdom Tree moving a little bit of Bitcoin, but only 22 hours ago, BlackRock has moved the Bitcoin, well, effectively purchased the Bitcoin, but not much Bitcoin to be like, get excited about. But primarily, it's still involved in it, and we know that the balance is above 700,000. It's just not been updated on the Arkham just yet. Now, with that being said, going over to here, this happened yesterday. $226 million worth of liquidations, and it's more than likely going to be more if Bitcoin can sustain itself. So quickly going over into the high block to put it into perspective, just to see where we are with those levels of the liquidations. Now, what we got to look for here is the concentration of those traders who are in margin, high margin, or low margin. And as you can see right here, we've got high margins all the way up here around the 115,000 region. But we've also got high margins here with the long liquidations. And those high margins, those pink areas right there, they're the ones where traders are using a lot more money and less leverage. And if they're using a lot more money, less leverage, that means there's more money to be had for the market maker to transact at those points, okay? Remember, he moves in terms of value. He wants to get to where he can actually exploit price at one point to the next. He doesn't care about bias. He cares about where the most amount of money is, okay? Now, quickly going over back into the order flow of Bitcoin, just to put it into perspective for you. We do have quite a significant amount of offers coming into play, and there's lots of orders. Did I just see that correctly? Was that 78 million? No, sorry. No, it wasn't 78 million, but that would have been interesting. Zooming out, what we're seeing with Bitcoin is a safer option for me would be to see if Bitcoin can recover some of this imbalance of the vector candle. I'd like to see it do that. And the reason being, because then it will give me more weight to believe that there is a possibility that the rise, the retrace, continuation is more than likely to happen. That's what I'd like to see. Okay, now this is for over a longer period of time. Going over into the daily time frame, you can see we've got a blue vector candle right here. And the problem with that is usually vectors get recovered. But this is the first vector candle that we've had in a long time, trailing up towards the all-time highs and not really successfully going anywhere. And that's a bit of a problem for me. Now, what we've seen is Nasdaq's been moving up and Bitcoin has sort of moved up just in one instance. It's consolidated whilst the Nasdaq's been climbing up slowly, but it's not really made a clean move. This is what Mark was talking about, where there's not many confirmed breakouts, okay? What we're now looking for is the breakout. We need to see the breakout for Bitcoin to say, you know what? We are sustaining the idea of a rally to the upside. Now, going into today, remember, you've got Waller speaking at 6 p.m., 6:15 UK time. But the real beef on today is the 30-year bond auction. Please be mindful at 6 o'clock UK time, 1 p.m. US time, you're going to get this bond auction, which will tell us whether or not investors are favoring the logic of bonds. The 30-year yield is trading sideways. The 5-year yield is trading sideways. The 10 years pretty much flat. The 2-year itself is also flat. When the yields are flat, that's good news for us, okay? Market getting kind of busy right now, and it's not even open just yet. So when the bonds market are trading flat, it just shows you that investors are trying to work out where they can position themselves into the future. Now, quickly going over into other assets to put it into perspective, I just want to go over and have a look at copper for a minute. Copper's killing it, man. Copper is doing fantastic on Trump's announcement of a 50% tariff on copper. That's going to hurt your consumer, and that's going to sure solidify what these FOMC speakers are going to be identifying, in the sense where if they are going to cut the rates, then what other factors are going to come into play to make sure that they can cut with confidence? Well, when you get a reading of 226,000 on the unemployment claims, shows you that the economy is showing resilience. 227,000, sorry. So it's less than what they had anticipated, but that just shows you that there is resilience. Now, remember, next week, we've got CPI data coming out, and we're waiting now for the analyst's expectation. If the CPI comes in and it's higher, then ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to get those rate cuts. And if we do get a rate cut, it's going to be a very small one. Now, there is speculation that Powell is going to be retiring. I can't confirm any of that, but it's going to be interesting to see if he does. Quickly going over into the US dollar itself, you can see that dollar is slowly climbing up. Do not sleep on dollar. It's slowly climbing up. All right. So you've got to ask yourself the question. If the dollar dominance is slowly climbing up, you've got the euro pulling back, the yen is pulling back, the dollar's coming up, the bonds are flat, the stock markets are all-time highs with zilch volume. You've got to then say to yourself, is this the trap? And when we go over to the sentiment of the chart, you can see that smart money is at the 0.29 mark. In the video that I did when I was abroad, I said we were currently at the 0.36 and we needed to see an extreme get taken. We are now at that extreme. And historically, whenever this blue line hits an extreme, you're waiting for a reversal, okay? That's what we got to be paying attention to. So if you do come to these lives and you tune in, make sure you do, because I'm going to be making reference to these, to this chart, to put things into perspective on where we are with smart money, okay? Quickly going over into other assets as well. Let's go and have a look at Solana. Solana's holding out nicely on the daily time frame, still finding a bit of resistance at the 200 EMA. Go down into the 4-hour time frame to put it into perspective. You can see it's just trading a little bit sideways. No real activity yet. Quickly going over into Ethereum. Ethereum's done very well. Now listen, Ethereum has this tendency to make a move and then she pauses. She doesn't do anything. And the great thing about Ethereum is if you are in profits right now, you're going to be able to understand if she's getting ready to break down. But she does move very, very fast. So make sure that you are taking profits on that move. Oh, NASDAQ popping up. Now, what you've also got to consider as well is where we are with the dominance. Now, the dominance is starting to go down, okay? Now, there are expectations that Bitcoin dominance is going to pull back and that the idea that altcoins are going to move up, quite frankly, because we are in a macro-driven environment, it tells me that regardless of whether the dominance goes up or down, the stock market itself and cryptocurrency is always going to move because news is making it move. Trump could say something about tariffs. I mean, investors don't even care about tariffs anymore. They really don't. The things that we're focusing on right now is whether we're going to get the rate cut. The next big thing is this. If Powell were to actually resign, the only next person that's stepping in is cutting those rates. And that's going to alarm investors. Why? Because if the US debt levels are so high and Trump's now putting this one big beautiful bill, which is designed to increase the US debt by cutting taxes, then those investors are going to be like, hold on a second, we can't just simply cut the rates because everyone else has cut the rates. We have to do this logistically. Yes, the euro's got some great rates to start borrowing on the euro. The yen is even better. The Swiss franc is 0. So investors are like, you know what, we're just going to go over there where we know that there's confidence in where we are with those interest rates. And we're not just going to get no maverick coming in and trying to cut the rates just because Mr. Orange is actually just screaming for it. Cut the rates, because there's no such thing as inflation happening. What would be a kick in the face would be if Trump were to see that inflation came in higher. If inflation come in higher, ladies and gentlemen, next week, that would be a problem for Donald Trump. A massive problem. And then that would be Powell solidifying his stance on making sure that he doesn't cut the rates. Okay? Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to finalize it. Keep an eye out on the markets today. It is a bit of a free day until the FOMC speakers do come into play. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to make an exit to this live. Be sure to like and subscribe and just make sure that you're paying yourselves, because I believe that today we're going to get some really good whipsaw price action. Just pay yourselves. All right? Mad love and respect, guys, and I'll tune into you all later. Peace.